We're just going to move on now, sort of back to the Rachel Reeves. I don't know what the BBC website have described it as an unusual pre-budget speech. Well, that's one word for it, I suppose. Word salad is another description. I still don't really know what she said in amongst it all, but perhaps somebody could throw some light on that. Is Roger Bootle, the Economist. He's on the line now. Now, Roger, top economists are predicting that she's set to hit middle-class earners with a 60 billion tax bomb that could send Britain into a, quote, fiscal doom loop. Would you agree with that?
Well, I think the words are a bit exaggerated, but the logic is, I think, correct. And whether it's 60 billion or 30 or 40 billion, I'm not sure. We are in a fiscal mess, no doubt about it.
And what are we going to do about it? What would you do about it if you were Chancellor?
Well, this is where I think economic factors run up against politics. There's no doubt in my mind about what needs to be done. That is, the government has got to slash public spending and not put up taxes. But it's difficult, actually, for any government to do that, and it's particularly difficult for this government to do it. It is a Labour government, after all. It's found before its backbenchers revolted against previous quite small cuts. So although this is what I would advocate, big cuts in government spending, I suspect we're going to get virtually none of that. And I think probably all of the burden is going to fall upon tax riders.
I mean, the NHS, it's a bit of a sacred cow. It gets held up by every government. They all seem to feel that it's untouchable. But anyone who has used the NHS, and I've seen it used recently, I mean, it was fantastic with a friend of mine. It saved her life. It was incredible. But on the other end, with my elderly mother, you know, we were there for 9 hours. I saw so much inefficiency. Why do successive governments fail to just say this needs root and branch reform?
Well, I think you've put your finger on it, really. I mean, there are some really wonderful bits of the NHS. I've had good treatment myself, and there are some appalling bits of it. You called it a sort of sacred cow. The late Nigel Lawson said that it was the nearest thing that the English came to a religion, belief in the NHS. But I think probably the scales are falling from many people's eyes. Many people like you have had experience of treatment that isn't really quite good enough. They're becoming increasingly aware that in other countries it's better. This notion that the NHS is the envy of the world is complete and utter tosh. If it was ever true, I mean, why aren't other countries copying us? You must be joking. For a long time, I think this debate was marred by a sort of knee-jerk reaction of thinking that, oh, well, if you don't want the NHS, you're suggesting we have the American system. And I, for one, wouldn't go anywhere near the American system. I wouldn't touch it with a barge pole. It's expensive, and it delivers, on average, appalling health outcomes for the American people. But that's not the only alternative. We look across the channel. France is a better system than us. Germany has too. But the example I particularly like is Holland, where they had a system rather like ours, and in, I think it was 2006, they changed to a system based on social insurance. I think we do a lot worse than copying Holland.
I mean, Kemi Badenoch, Conservative leader, described Rachel Reeves' speech yesterday as one long waffle bomb, which she said has left business leaders none the wiser. I mean, the business world is increasingly unstable, isn't it? Because nobody's making any decisions because they don't know what's coming on November the 26th.
Well, I think they've got a pretty good idea what's coming, actually, namely higher taxes. It's just a question of which particular ones and by how much. There's no doubt that increased taxes will hit business confidence and business spending, as well, of course, as households. Now, there should be an offset to all this, and that why are taxes going up? Well, because we've got all this spending going on in the economy. There's that, so there'll be some increases in public spending coming through. But the attempt to tighten the budget, which is what she's trying to do, will undoubtedly hit demand in the economy, tend to weaken immediate growth performance. Now, one possible offset to that, and we'll get news on this immediately tomorrow, is there could be more chance now of an interest rate cut.
Nick in London would like to join our conversation. Hi, Nick.
Yes, hello there. You were talking about the NHS and calling it a sacred cow. Well, saying others did. That may be true in Westminster and mainstream media, but I don't think people do. I think people see it for what it is. And sometimes it's very, very good, but sometimes it's blooming awful. And if you ever take the chance to look at the annual reports of your local NHS trust, just find out how much the senior executives pay themselves for a start. I mean, mine, Croydon University Trust, last time I looked, a couple of years ago, the chief medical officer was taking home £750,000 a year, half in pension, half in a salary. £750,000 a year. That was,
Yeah.
And I'm fairly sure it's fairly samey, you know, elsewhere in the other trusts. I mean, why, for example, does England need, and it's got 225 different NHS trusts?
Yeah. Nick, I mean, I think you make an excellent point, and I think you're spot on. I think actually, when you look outside the Westminster bubble and listen to the British public, they are saying we would be happy with root and branch reform of the NHS. They love the NHS, but anyone who uses it can see where the problems are and that they need to be fixed. Thank you very, very much for the call, and also thank you very much to economist Roger Bootle for joining us